Hello, welcome. Let's Make a Profit podcast. This podcast was designed to be informational on the profit first method, the highs and lows of being a business owner, and also just owning your financials. We're really going to work on some, just teaching people how to understand their financials and be able to read their financials. We're going to help you eradicate entrepreneur poverty. And some people may know what that is and some people may not. And I'll get a little bit more into depth on what that is. But did you know that 83% of all small businesses run check to check? That means that they get their money in and it instantly goes right back out the door. They don't keep it for other things that their business needs to run. So really, this podcast was to kind of help bring all of this together and also helping you to understand as a small business that sometimes you get tired of not paying your value to yourself, losing your why in the process, and then also working in your business rather than on your business. And some people may not understand what that is, but there is a difference between in your business and on your business. Leaders work on the business. Team members work in the business. So that's kind of the difference between those two, and understanding that as a small business owner, sometimes we do both. And then also too, I'm here to show you how to not be part of that 83% group, because 83% of all small business owners, I don't even know the exact number, but 83% of small businesses that are running check to check, that is a very large amount of small businesses that are not working productively in their business. So I just want to introduce myself. My name is Rebecca Howell, and I'm the owner and operator of Custom Bookkeeping and Accounting Solutions. I'm an enrolled agent with the IRS and also a certified Profit First professional. I'm going to take a second just to thank my sponsors. So Dr. Bo and Jamie Mullen and their staff at Harbor Life Chiropractic, they want to help you unleash your health potential. Tim and Sadie Marlowe at BD Local Podcast Studio, thank you for all your hard work in making our podcast great. And Roger Sargent with Affluence Business Solutions, helping the small business owner and their teams with their business development and leadership skills. So thank you to all my sponsors. Today, I'm going to talk a little bit about my story on how Profit First came to be really a proven system that helped my business and my personal financials. So I do have the little book here for reference so people at least can kind of know what I'm talking about. And I'm not just shooting from the hip today. The book Profit First was originally introduced to me by one of my clients that happened to be working on my website. He said, hey, the one thing you need to make sure that you do is have an ebook. And I was like, what's an ebook? And he says, well, it's a book of information that we put on your website. It's an electronic book. And I said, okay, how do I do that? And he says, well, just start putting some things that bookkeepers and accountants and how you help your clients and things that you can put into this ebook. So I hastily read this book very fast when I originally was approached with it, just really to get that ebook out and get it out to market. So I put it on the shelf and I said, okay, I did what I needed to do with it. Throughout that year, Profit First kept coming up in conversations. It kept coming up in business networking events that I was at. And I kind of thought to myself, why? There's a reason this book keeps coming up. I need to circle back to it. So I took the time, and around this time was COVID. I mean, we all had kind of a lot of time on our hands when we first were shut down. So I took that time to say, okay, I'm going to go back to this book and I'm going to really dive in and absorb it. I'm going to understand what is the process of this. Why was this book kept popping back into my mind, and really understand that what was the purpose for it. So this time, as I said, I was reading the book, I was really paying attention to it, and I came across the section where Mike talks about Profit First professionals. And we talked a little bit about this with my interview with Mike last week, or my last podcast, that we talked about what Profit First Professionals was. It was a program that he put together for bookkeepers, accountants, and business consultants to help share profit first. He knew as a single person that, the book was all he could do. And he was out networking the book. And a lot of times it would come where he would run into somebody and they said, "Hey, I read the book." And he said, "Well, how's that going for you?" And they said, "Well, I haven't had time to implement it." Well, why not? And they're like, "Well, we just don't really know where to start." So he saw an opportunity in this Profit First Professionals to get the message out there. So I didn't quite really know what I was going to do with this Profit First Professional program, but I was interested in it, and I was really just hungry for the knowledge that I was going to get off of this after really diving into that book. So a little backstory on this. When I started Profit First, I've been in business for 15 years prior to really getting into this 2020. So I had been running my business for 15 years, really, to be honest, not as well as I should have. And I'm letting you into my story to understand that I'm just like every other small business owner. Sometimes we don't know what we don't know, and sometimes we don't know what's right and what's wrong. So really, I found myself as a solo entrepreneur running my business as most people do. And I was okay at making income, but I didn't really know what to do with it after that. I mean, yeah, had no problem spending it on all my expenses. I took a little bit of payroll, and then the rest of it I took as distributions or / draws, whatever you want to call those. And so I realized that I was working in my business to afford my personal life, which is great. There's nothing wrong with that. But as I said, I wasn't taking any payroll. I wasn't paying in taxes. So I was losing out on these things that business owners have to do. So of course, as a bookkeeper and accountant, I got creative with my write-offs. And one year I had to write a check to the IRS for just over $5,000. And let me tell you, that hurt a lot. I was like, where's this money? Same conversation I have with every client when I finish up their tax return and they owe money. It's like, I don't have it. Where's it coming from? So I had to scramble and like I said, wrote that check. And I thought, well, I'm not doing that again. So I decided to take this 10-year-old car that I was driving around. I kept it. I was efficient with it. But it was like, okay, well, instead of paying the IRS $5,000, I'm going to pay a car payment. But instead of actually paying a car payment, I ended up that leasing a car was a better write-off for me. So I created more write-offs. But again, did I pay myself a salary? Did I pay taxes? Nope, I didn't. So again, I wasn't being smart. I was just doing what I thought was best by creating more write-offs. So really, when this profit first came about, what the driving force behind it was in October of 2019, I had the opportunity to add a team member. My business was growing. It was growing outside of what one person could control. And I knew that two of us could work better than one. So it was like, well, did I really do anything other than add more worries to my plate? Not really. I was like, how was I going to run my business the way I was? Because it was barely sustaining me. How was I going to be able to pay a team member and let alone pay their taxes? Because those had to be paid. I couldn't finagle that. I couldn't work around it with a draw. So I was like, well, I've got to find a solution. So Profit First came in, and it kind of answered a lot of my worries that I was having. Because what I was able to do was, again, like I said, I didn't have problem making income. I just wasn't fulfilling my buckets. So this method really was able to help me kind of answer some of those worries, subside some of those things that I was having. I still didn't quite understand it all, but it at least started to give my money purpose. And Mike talks about this in his book, Small Plates. And he talks about the 5 major accounts that we have to open for Profit First to again understand how your money gives it purpose, how you've now given your money some purpose. So those accounts are income, profit, tax, owner's pay, and operating expense accounts. And I will dive into more of these and again, what their purposes are and get into more details of businesses and the creativity of those that we can get into. But I was, at least this way, this simple change that I did by opening up these 5 bank accounts and sitting down once a week and doing my percentage allocations. We'll dive into those percentage allocations as well. But based on the way I had run my numbers and my assessment, I knew what percentages I was working with. And I simply started with 1% in my profit account. I started with 3% in my tax account. And I was still taking, because as I told you, I was taking distributions. Those actually equaled up to 51% when I added in my distributions, my benefits that I was getting from the auto deductions, the lease, the car payment that was being paid. When I started adding up that, I was taking 51% of my income for personal use. So again, like I said, I was working to provide for my personal life. And through some opportunities, obviously, I was able to pay some debt, which obviously helped not having to take so much money on distributions. And that's something that you can work on. But my operating expenses were at 48%. And you look at that and say, well, it's not horrible. But as a service-based business that doesn't sell products, 48% really isn't that great. So my job was to say, okay, I'm going to increase my percentages as I work. So like I said, I started off with 1%. I upped it to 2%. I'm now currently at 3%. My taxes went from 3% to 5% to 8%. And I did this over 3 different quarters. And I was able to, again, give those accounts purpose. And my money that went into my owner's pay was able to, now I have literally this entire year paid myself a reasonable salary. Every 2 weeks, when I process payroll for my employees, I pay myself. Because as distributions, I was paying myself. I just wasn't paying myself appropriately. So I was able to say, okay, that's what that money's for. And I was able to process my payroll, and I was able to process my tax payments. When it came time, I had the money sitting in there to pay my tax payments, and my profit account actually helped to pay down my debt. So if I can do all of this with this simple system of just taking my money and purposing it, and it makes sense. And it was like, this is actually working. So it has really, truly been a game changer for my business and really has given me clarity on how my business runs. So I've been able to, I do weekly allocations. I sit down and I pay my bills at that time. And I look at how much money do I have in my operating account and my owner's pay account. And you obviously have some personal bills. I took my payroll. And then I look at, okay, well, maybe I can't pay as much off on this bill, or maybe I charged too much on that credit card and I might need to chunk it a little bit. I need to think about it. Or, oh my, I have some extra money in my profit account. Let's go ahead and pay off that credit card so I don't have to pay off the interest. So there's just things that you can look at and really make better decisions. And I realized that I was making my money work better for me than it had in the last 15 years. So it was that much of a game changer for me. So being a bookkeeper and accountant, I understand general accounting principles. Sales minus expenses equals profit. I also understand that with working with many of my clients and having conversations with other small business owners, that this method tells us to look at profit last. Sales minus expenses equals profit. Anytime you put anything last, do you ever really put that much significance to it? Do you ever give it that much importance, that much priority? So anytime you put something on your to-do list or even your goals list, if it's last, you've now given it the least amount of significance. So if we change our thought process, and this is what Profit First does, is it says we're taking sales minus profit equals expenses. So sales being the thing that we have to create first, but by switching your mindset to think about profit next and last your expenses, this method teaches you that your expenses, and it helps you with unnecessary spending, but it also puts profit first. Again, the reason of the title of the book. This method of understanding sales minus profit equals expenses reminds you to look at your expenses, because the first thing we do when we do a profit first assessment is we also look at expenses. Where are you unnecessarily spending? Dues, subscriptions, inventory. I mean, inventory is a huge one that people, they buy it because the salesperson came to them and said, oh, I have a great deal for you if you buy more. Did you really need it? Maybe, maybe not. But this way, if you look at it and go, I don't have that extra money, then you mindfully make a really good business decision to say, you know what, yes, it's a great deal, but I only have this much money. So you don't overspend. Because I've had numerous clients that do inventory, and I talk to them and say, how much inventory do you have? When was the last time that inventory actually got cycled? Because a lot of times inventory, they purchase it, it sits there, and then they forget they even have it. So it's like all you did was waste money on something that somebody told you it was a good deal. So that doesn't make mindful spending. This method teaches you to really be mindful on all aspects of your business, not just spending, but your taxes, your profit, and having that clarity. I've been able to tell you exactly how much money I need to bring in each week, because when I sit down and do my allocations, I put my dollar amount that I put in my income account and I break it out. So I know exactly how much money my business needs to make each week. Not every business can answer that question. And then I look at my operating account and I say, okay, well, I've depleted it, or, there's not as much money. And I know that I've got some bills in the back of my mind, I know that are coming up. And I look at that income account and maybe I haven't been good about working. That tells me I need to get back to work. If I don't have the money in the income account that I know I'm supposed to have each week. So I get back to work, or I've delayed in my billing. So now it's time for me to sit down and say, well, send those bills out so I can get paid, because then I feel more comfortable. But having that clarity and knowing that I can tell you exactly how much my business needs, and if it is or isn't there, is really actually very mindful, and the stress is definitely much better. So one of the things that I've learned that this method gave me the opportunity to learn how to make my business serve not only my team, but also myself at the same time. Because if I'm running a great business and I'm running a business that is meeting all these needs that a business has to run, I am more in tune with the business. I'm more in tune with my team members, and I can provide for them what they need to keep this business moving forward. So with small steps and my advice, I know that I can help you eradicate your entrepreneurial poverty and get back to loving your business and appreciating your why you started in the first place. Nobody wants to lose their why. Nobody wants to not pay their value to themselves. Those things, if you lose your why and you lose your value, what you feel like you're getting paid for all your hard work, all you're going to do is burn yourself out. And you're going to end up closing that business and feeling like, I've wasted how many years, how many hours, how many days. And if there's a system out there that can help you really eradicate that entrepreneurial poverty and get you back to loving your why, Why did you do this business? Why was it important to you? And really appreciating and getting your value, it's worth it. And I have people tell me, I read the book. It's a one size fits all. If you read the book and you don't get the help from the professionals that have gone through the education and the training, I can see how you get there. I can see how you see that this is a one size fits all. And I know that Mike has been really good in the book, but when you look at, okay, the 10th and the 25th allocations, you think that that's the only allocations. You think that that's set in stone. Being a bookkeeper, an accountant for as many years as I have, I understand that each business is different. Every business owner has a different mindset. Every business owner runs their business differently. Bookkeeping is bookkeeping, but the way we approach it and the way we customize to fit each individual business, we can do the same thing with Profit First. I do weekly allocations. I mentioned that. And in my podcast last week, it was quite interesting to hear that Mike Mikowitz, the author of the book that tells you the 10th and the 25th, does weekly allocations as well. So there is some customizing and some, nuances that we can really dive into that, yes, the book may be a one size fits all, but never look at Profit First, the method itself. When you work with these professionals and understand how your business is, that we can customize and create this to fit your business and make sure that you don't dive into this Profit First method so rapidly that you fail. Nobody wants that. We don't want you to do that. So our process is to say little simple steps. Like I said, simple steps, small processes make for little wins, and a lot more little wins that we can appreciate every single day. So with that, I wanted to, like I said, just share a little bit of my story, and I hope that you all appreciate and understand that I'm a small business owner just like everybody else. I go through the highs and lows. I go through the pain points, and I'm here to help with something that I have discovered has drastically changed the face of my business and how it works and how it runs and how it pays. So I recently did a new website, so I'd like you guys to go check out the website, letsmakeaprofitpodcast.com. I'm also on several podcast platforms, so you can certainly connect on the website on any of those. And then I'm also on YouTube, so please make sure that you go out there, listen, and subscribe. And lastly, don't hesitate to reach out. If you have any questions or you want to learn more about Profit First, I can be reached at 253-514-8564. Thank you for listening and have a great day.